After 2 consecutive terms in power and another landslide election victory this past April, there seems to be little that can threaten the rule of Viktor Orban in Hungary. But that doesn't mean the project to consolidate his power in the media has in any way eased off. In the 8 years since Orban's Fidesz party swept to victory in 2010, numerous media outlets have been shut down or seen drastic changes in their editorial line, often after changes in ownership. Which is why alarm bells rang last month when Orban allies closed in on Index.hu, the last remaining outlet read and respected on both sides of the political divide in Hungary. So far, so familiar, you might say, but Hungary watchers are now observing the Orban media model gain a foothold in other European countries like Macedonia and Slovenia on the back of investments that some say seek to promote the Hungarian Prime Minister's pan-European agenda. The Listening Post's Will Young reports.
April 2018. A landslide election victory gives Hungarian Prime Minister Viktor Orban the majority he needs to change Hungary's constitution, and the confidence to accuse media who criticize him of being fake news.
Miniszterelnök úr, megenged egy kérdést nekünk?
Maga honnan van?
Index-től vagyok.
Az egy fake news járóda, nem nyilatkozunk.
Az Indexet naponta körülbelül 1 millió ember.
Index is read by about 1 million people daily. When the Prime Minister calls one of the largest and most important independent news outlets a fake news factory, it means he considers these 1 million people to be stupid.
Less than 4 months after Orban's accusation in September, a member of the Prime Minister's ruling coalition took a 50% stake in the company that controls Index's advertising revenues. Index journalists, such as editor-in-chief Gabor Miklosi, are on high alert.
The most important question is how the ownership change will affect our independence. We set up an independence barometer on a separate web domain from Index. If we feel that someone is influencing our work, then we will change the barometer from independent to either at risk or not free.
It is right for Index's staff to be very worried about the situation. Index was established back in 1999. So it has grown up essentially together with online media in Hungary. It sort of symbolizes online journalism, quality online journalism in Hungary. As soon as government proxies appear near these media outlets, it can very quickly end up in a change in its coverage, or it can also essentially be shut down, as it happened with Népszabadság.
Népszabadság was one of Hungary's last major left-leaning newspapers, when in 2016 it was purchased and quickly shut down by investors linked with Orban's Fidesz party. Since then, more changes in ownership have been followed by more closures, as well as notable shifts in editorial line.
Magyar Nemzet, one of Hungary's most prestigious daily newspapers, shut down immediately after the elections. Landslide Radio was also shut down. Then, Heti Válasz, a conservative weekly which had been critical of the government, was also closed. This summer, a new investor bought Hír TV, Hungary's most watched cable news channel. On the day the new owners arrived, a popular evening talk show was replaced by a Viktor Orban speech. The intentions of the new owners were clear to everyone.
Origo used to be a competitor of Index, and it used to be independent. By now, it has been completely degraded and has become a propaganda mouthpiece for the government. Other tabloids cater for even more particular niche demands. They do not function as media, but rather as subsidiaries of the Ministry of Information, directly executing government orders.
One of those tabloids is Ripost, just one of a host of relatively minor outlets that serve the bottom end of the Hungarian media market. They're low on information, high on sensation, and what news these outlets actually cover is dominated by outrage against the EU, against migrants, and against Orban's political opponents.
After 2015, many new outlets appeared out of thin air, essentially. Ripost is something that you would probably characterize as this tabloid political journalism. It's a copycat version of Informer in Serbia, which has been spreading fake news, conspiracy theories. Orban essentially imported something from another country, and now he is exporting it to other countries in the Balkans.
In recent months, Hungarian investors linked to Orban and businesses close to him have effectively been subsidizing highly politicized sensationalist media in Macedonia and Slovenia, pushing anti-migrant, Eurosceptic narratives with a large smattering of smears of opponents of the populist right. Much in the image of Hungary under Fidesz, these investments seem to have little to do with profit-making and everything to do with promoting a certain brand of politics.
In Slovenia, they bought media that is co-owned by the right-wing nationalist populist party, the SDS. Viktor Orban personally campaigned for SDS leader Janez Janša during the last election campaign. In Macedonia, Hungarian-owned media outlets called for a boycott of a referendum on changing the country's official name to enable it to join the European Union. Both there and in Slovenia, Hungarian-owned media disseminates far-right populist messages.
It is not possible in Slovenia for a company to invest so much in a loss-making media house. These media, Nova 24 TV, Skandal and Demokracija, are not really separate entities, but a single media. What is published by one will appear on the others. Demokracija has an entire segment dedicated to immigration, and each example is worse than the last. There will be attacks on political adversaries based on unverified information. I see it all as one big political propaganda machine, which feeds on hate, discrimination and lies. Things that are typical of propaganda, not journalism.
The investments in both countries have been crucial, partly because they arrived just after the parties who were the previous owners lost power, and as a consequence also the resources to sustain these costly media operations. Such investments cannot be rationalized by market incentives. Without this Hungarian money, numerous media operations would have shut down.
I want to ask you, colleagues, today, what is the state of our union?
Last month, the European Parliament voted to trigger a so-called rule of law procedure against the Hungarian government for its rolling back of civil liberties and human rights, including freedom and plurality in the media.
The Hungarian government has effectively silenced independent media.
A setback for Orban's European project, but with elections to the European Parliament just months away, media investments in countries like Slovenia and Macedonia could help keep Orban's European ambitions alive.
Fidesz is building relationships with other politicians in the Central and Eastern Europe region, in countries both inside and outside the EU. On the one hand, they provide know-how, how to rule the media landscape, how to set the public agenda, how to run a propaganda media network. On the other hand, we see shopping trip acquisitions with no genuine business motivations. As in Hungary, it is not lucrative to run a propaganda machine. However, it does pay off in politics.
Central Europe has often served as a sort of early warning system when it comes to political developments, because institutions are weaker here. So when political entrepreneurs come in and try to influence them, they can be more successful. Orban is simply finding his way through those vulnerabilities, and I think it's something that could happen in other countries as well if the media becomes this weak.